Hello students, welcome back. In this video we are going to start with a new chapter which is called The Living Organisms and Their Surroundings. In this chapter we will learn about the various types of living organisms that are there on planet Earth and the surroundings in which they are adapted to. So let's get started with the chapter. First we will have a look at the various topics that we are going to cover. So let's have a look at the topics. The topics that we will be covering in this chapter are habit and habitat. We will learn about biotic and abiotic components. Then we will have a journey through different habitats. And we will learn about the characteristics of living beings and difference in between living and non-living things. And we will wrap up the chapter with a brief summary. So let's get started. First, we will learn about what is habitat and adaptation. Let's have a brief introduction. Different locations on our planet Earth have different surroundings and different types of creatures live there. We are aware of it. On Earth, the surroundings are different and different surroundings have different creatures. Each living organism has certain characteristics that help it live in its particular environment, such as in deserts or in the sea. If you take a fish and put it in the desert, or if you take a camel and put it in the sea, they will not survive because those are not their habitats. All living organisms share some common characteristics and that helps us to differentiate between living and non-living things. So we can differentiate between living and non-living things based on certain characteristics. Before getting into those, we will learn about what is a habitat. A habitat can be defined as a home or a dwelling place of an organism. Now the habitat of a fish or an octopus is aquatic, meaning it survives in water. Now the habitat for a lion or a tiger or human being is terrestrial, meaning we survive on land. It is the place where the particular organism lives. For example, deserts are habitat of camels, while the seas are the habitat of fish. There are two primary kinds of or types of habitats. First is the terrestrial habitat. What are terrestrial habitats? These are different habitats which are found on the land. They include forests, grasslands, deserts, coastal and mountain regions. And the next type of habitat is aquatic habitat. They are the habitats of plants and animals that live in water. Lakes, rivers and oceans are some examples of aquatic habitats. Now what do we understand by adaptation? Adaptation are the features which enable an organism to survive in the habitat. The webbed feet of ducks enable them to swim well, while the sharp claws of eagle help them to catch their prey while flying. Similarly, all living things need to adjust and adapt to the climate and the surroundings of their habitat. Adaptation is the way in which an organism or species become better suited to its environment. So what do we understand by adaptation? Adaptation is the ability of an organism or a species to become better suited to a particular environment. Here is a pictorial representation of some habitats. We all have heard about the ocean, where we see different kinds of organisms. Forests, where different kinds of organisms stay, which have characteristics different from those living in ocean. In desert, there are animals which vary in their characteristics with the organisms of the ocean or forest, and the grassland also, where other different kinds of organisms survive. These organisms are suited to the environment of these particular regions. Let us see how they are suited. Before that, let us have a look at what is biotic and abiotic components of the environment. Biotic, as its name suggests, are all the living things in an ecosystem, such as the plants and animals. These living things interact with one another in many ways. So from the name itself, biotic, bio means the biological organisms of an environment, and abiotic components meaning not the biotic ones, which are the non-living parts of the environment that can often have a major influence on living organisms. They include water, sunlight, oxygen, soil, rocks and temperature. Though the water, the sunlight, the oxygen, the air, they are not living parts of the environment, but they are very important for the survival of the living organisms. So both of these components are required in equal amount. Let's have a look at the impact of abiotic organisms or abiotic components on an organism. Let us have a look at the activity that will help us to observe the impact. There are some materials required and you can very well obtain it from your own house. Some moong or gram seeds, green gram seeds and water. What is the procedure? Collect some dry moong seeds and divide them into two parts. So you can take some dry moong seeds and divide them into two parts. Keep a part aside and soak the second part in water for a day. So one part will be remaining dry and the other part is to be soaked in water for a day. Again, divide the soaked seeds into four parts. So the dry parts you will not take into consideration, you will just leave it. You can take the water soaked part and divide it into four parts. Keep one part completely soaked in water for 3 to 4 days. Out of these four parts, you will take one part and keep them in water for 3 to 4 days. Do not disturb the dry seeds and those submerged in water. So now you have two things to look over. The dried seeds in the very first step, and in the second step, out of the four parts, you have taken some and kept in water. Do not disturb these two parts. Keep one part of soaked seeds in a sunny place, another part in a dark place, and the third part in a refrigerator. So now out of the four parts, one is submerged in water. There are three parts left. One is to be kept in a sunny place, one in a dark place, and the third in a refrigerator. Set these three parts to germinate by rinsing them and draining the water. So these three parts are allowed to germinate by rinsing them and then draining the water. Observe your collection for a few days and state whether the seeds in all the five parts germinate equally. You can do this at your home. It's very easy. The seeds kept at the sunny place germinated first. It implies that air, warmth and water all are required equally to germinate a seed. So this is what you will observe at the end of the experiment. Try it out and send me pictures, upload them if you can, and let us know how you have found out. Next, we will learn about adaptation versus acclimatization. What is the difference between these two terms? Well, adaptation is the tendency of an organism to develop certain features which improve the chances of its survival in the habitat in which it lives. Like I have mentioned before, adaptation is the tendency of an organism by which it develops certain features which helps it to survive in a particular habitat. It takes thousands of years for a living being to adapt to its environment. For example, camel and desert rat are well adapted to the desert habitat and not to the water. We all know this. Similarly, fishes have gills that help them to live in water, and aquatic plants have special tissues that help them to take in the dissolved gas from the water. So all of these organisms that are mentioned in this paragraph, see, they all have adaptations which have adapted them to the habitat in which they survive. Like camels and desert rat, they are adapted to desert. Fishes have gills, so they are adapted to water, and aquatic plants have special tissues that help them to take the dissolved gas from the water. So all of these are various kinds of adaptations. The next point that we will learn about is acclimatization. What is acclimatization? When organisms acclimatize to a condition, they become used to a new condition around them. Acclimatization is a process that generally takes place over a short period of time. For example, in acclimatization to the low pressure of oxygen in high mountains, animals including man improve the capacity of blood to transport oxygen by increasing the number of red blood cells. Let me explain this to you. Acclimatization is basically adaptation for a brief period of time. It is a process which generally takes place over a short period of time. For example, if you go to a high mountainous region, your body automatically adapts to that new environment in a very short period of time. That adaptation for a short period of time is called acclimatization. So when you go to mountainous regions, your blood requires more oxygen, and that is done by increasing the number of red blood cells naturally. You don't have to do anything for that. So see, if the fish is surviving in a very hot temperature suddenly, then what happens is the gills adjust to the heat and pick up more oxygen. This is a natural case for the fish, like it is natural for us. So adaptation or to the environment for a brief period of time in a very short period of time, that is acclimatization. Now, the most interesting part, we will take a journey to different kinds of habitats. We will have a journey through different kinds of habitats in the next slides. Let's get started with our journey. So first we will learn about terrestrial habitats. There are three primary types of terrestrial habitats that we will learn in this chapter. First is the desert, then mountain, and then grassland. Let's get started. First, let us get started with the desert habitat. The climate of desert, as we know, is dry and hot with very little vegetation. Due to the dry and hot climate, most plants don't survive there. So most animals which survive in deserts are insects, birds, reptiles, and smaller mammals. Small animals living in deserts remain inactive during the day and active during the night. Why do they remain more active during the night? To prevent the loss of water from the body. Due to very high temperature and very hot temperature and dry region, we animals tend to lose a loss of water by perspiration or sweating. To avoid that, the animals are more active during the night when the temperature is less and the loss of water by sweating is also reduced. Let us have a look at one of the most important animals of the desert, camels. Camels are the only large animals in hot desert. The padded feet of a camel help it to walk easily on the sand. If you have seen the feet of a camel, you will see they are padded. Why is it padded? To help them to walk on the sand easily. The hump on its back has stored fat. Camels have a hump on their back. That is nothing but stored fat. This provides it with food when there is no food available in the desert. A camel also has long eyelashes, which prevent the sand from getting into its eyes. Its nostril can close so it doesn't get sand up its nose. It can drink lots of water at one go and can go on for many days without drinking it. The camel produces dry dung and very little urine in order to conserve water. So we have already seen that animals living in deserts face a scarcity of water. In order to overcome the scarcity and the immense temperature, these are the adaptations a camel has in order to survive in a desert climate. It saves water by storing water. It removes the unwanted substances from its body by producing dry dung and very little urine. That is also conservation of water, and it also has a hump which has stored fat. You can point wise write your answers when you are writing adaptations. Apart from camels, we find animals like snakes and rats in a desert. However, they don't have long legs like camels, so they adapt to the heat by going into a burrow. A camel cannot live in a burrow because it has very long legs. But other animals like snakes and rats, they don't have long legs, so they can adapt to the heat by living in a burrow, which is a hole deep in the ground during daytime. They are mostly nocturnal. What is the meaning of nocturnal? They are active during the night, because in the day, if they are more active, they will lose a lot of water. Plants in a desert have very small or no leaves. Mostly they are in the form of spines. These plants lose very little water through transpiration. What is transpiration? Removal of water from the plant body, unwanted water, that is by the process of transpiration. Humans perspire, we sweat, plants transpire, and photosynthesis is carried out by the stem. This is a way of adapting to the climate. Stems are spongy with a coating of wax, hence they are called succulent plants. Wax coating prevents loss of water and spongy stems stores water. So what do we learn from here? Plants in deserts, if you have seen cactuses, you will see mostly in deserts cactuses are there. The cactuses don't have leaves. They are either modified into spines or else plants have very small or no leaves. Mostly they are in the form of spines, as we have seen in the cactus. So what happens in case of plants is, since they have very small or no leaves, they do not lose extra water by transpiration. And you will see that in case of cactus plants, they have very thick stem which is green in color. They are hence called succulent plants because the stems are spongy and has a coating of wax. The wax prevents the loss of water and the spongy stem stores water. So these are few adaptations of plants which are surviving in the desert climate. These are some desert animals. A variety of various animals are there. See, there is a camel, a lion, spiders, desert rats, certain rattlesnakes, eagles, etc. These are all various kinds of desert animals and their pictures. And these are various desert plants, like the different kinds of cactuses. See, the cactuses have spines on their body and not leaves. And even if there are plants which have leaves, the leaves are very small. Now let us have a look at the next slide. Okay, so now we are going to discuss an activity. What is the activity? We have to see, or we have to prove, that the desert plants prevent water loss through transpiration. What are we required to do? We have to take two potted plants, a leafy normal plant and another a cactus, polythene bags and strings. Look at the procedure. Take the leafy plant and the cactus plant and tie polythene bags to branches of both the plants. So you have to take the cactus plant and the leafy plant. You can take a polythene bag and tie it up, or you can put the entire plant in a plastic bag as shown in the picture. Leave the plants in the sun for a few hours and observe both the plants. What do you see? Is there any difference in the amount of water collected on the two polythene bags? Write your observations. Now I want you all to try to do this at your own home and figure out what exactly happens. Do the activity and write down your observations in the comment section. Apart from that, if you have any questions regarding this particular portion that we have covered, you can definitely write in the comment section and I will answer your queries. So that is it for this particular video. We will continue with the next kinds of habitats, more pictures and more interesting things in the upcoming one. See you later everyone. Take care of yourselves and keep healthy, keep happy. Thank you.